Hi there, you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now with me, Shreyanshi Singh and Priyanka Uppolo. Over the next 1 hour, we get you news and updates from within the country as well as across the globe, tell you which stocks you should then be keeping on your radar, and tell you what the brokerages are also saying. But well, first things first, let's also congratulate all of our everybody who works on the channel and everybody who's been watching the channel for putting us on the numero uno spot for 12 straight weeks. We're the #1 English business news channel for 12 consecutive weeks. Thank you so much for posing your faith in ET Now viewers. Thank you so much for staying ahead of the curve, and if you've got to stay ahead of the curve, you know what to keep doing, which is watching ET Now.
Absolutely, Shreyanshi. Good morning. A time to really celebrate and cheer. 12 straight weeks. We have been on the viewers' radar, and we've been a preferred channel for viewers. ET Now, which secures 83% viewership, and continuously we have been on the first spot from last 12 weeks. But now let's get you cues from US markets. Not very good set of cues coming in for India at least. Dollar index has surpassed 107 mark. Of course, this is not good for the emerging markets, and the kind of cues, the kind of FI selling what we saw yesterday, of course, is not looking healthy and not looking good for Indian market. But now let's talk about what happened overnight in US markets. US markets is for sure on a track for a winning week. On Thursday, the Dow rose about 462 points, nearly more than a percent jump which we saw on Nasdaq. S&P 500 also added 0.5% of gain. And in fact, Nasdaq, that was little change. That one closed flat to positive. Talking about few of the key numbers, because Nvidia was the one which was slumping a day prior, but then this one, post the numbers, the shares closed up 0.5%. They recovered yesterday after an earnings beat, and as of course the US market's biggest company was able to hold its end of the bargain for the earnings season. But all three major averages, you see, they are on track for a positive week, led by Nasdaq majorly, which is gaining for more than 1.5% for this week. A lot of economic data which has to come in from Friday, that is today. Investors will get to assess the data which is coming in from the primary the PMI data index. That report comes in for the month of November, as well as an updated consumer sentiment reading which will come in now. Also, the kind of move we've seen on Bitcoin, that's absolutely on a tear. It's trading just under the long-awaited milestone of $1 lakh. Also, talking about bond yield, the 10-year Treasury yield, that one rose 2 basis points to settle at 4.42%, while the 2-year Treasury yield, that one gained nearly 5 basis points yesterday. So, US markets was the best performing market yesterday also, and Dow has been surging the most if you see the other markets among its global peer.
Well, absolutely. But with that, let's also take a quick look at oil then and see what that one has been up to. And it's been quite the roller coaster week for oil prices, because when you take a look at the move yesterday, though, you do have oil prices rising as Russia and Ukraine launched missiles at each other, overshadowing the impact then of a bigger than expected increase in US crude inventories. So that is something that we're largely looking at. When you take a look at price levels for Brent crude, you're looking at a 1.9% or almost a 2% uptick there coming in. For Brent crude, $74 per barrel is where that one was at. US WTI as well. When you take a look at the move, 1.9% thereabout gain coming in for US WTI as well, or settle above that $70 per barrel mark is what you're looking at. When you take a look at US WTI then, and Ukraine did fire British cruise missiles into Russia, the latest Western weapon it has been permitted to use a day after it fired US missiles. You do have Kyiv's Air Force that said that Russia also responded, launching an intercontinental ballistic missile at Ukraine. Now, this is the first time that Moscow has used such a powerful long-range missile during the war as well. So you do see those tensions really, geopolitical tensions really escalating at this point. And that is something that we're keeping an eye on when it comes to oil prices. And you do have those flaring tensions really just spinning oil prices. At this point, you also have OPEC Plus that may be pushing back output increases again when it meets on December 1st due to weak global oil demand. So that is also something that we're looking at in terms of key factors to keep an eye on when it comes to oil. Is at least when you take a look at gold, though, gold is climbing to an over 1 week high on safe haven demand as well. No points for guessing that geopolitical tensions are helping gold as well, because it is definitely a safe store of value in times of political uncertainty, and that is something that we're seeing play out even for gold, Priyanka.
Absolutely, but let's just talk about Bitcoin, of course, which seems to be on a surge. It's over the moon. It's just close to, it's just shying away of a key milestone of 1 lakh US dollars. And of course, this all is amidst the move is ever since Trump has come in, and a lot of expectations which are building up that Trump administration will create a friendly regulatory environment for cryptocurrency. That's what we saw, the unstoppable rally of Bitcoin. In fact, if you look at in terms of value in this year, it's about 40% up in just last 2 weeks only. So of course, this one looks like going on an unstoppable journey, Shreyans.
Well, absolutely. And speaking of unstoppable journeys, you do have gold defying dollar strength, and that is something that we've talked about. You do have that safe haven demand that is sort of playing out, and you do have gold prices keeping their 1 week gains coming in. So I just wanted to quickly mark the price level specifically. It was an uptick of just about 0.8%. $2,670 per ounce is where gold was at. So those are the kind of levels that we're largely looking at least when it comes to gold.
Okay, now taking a check of the other currency also, the Indian rupee especially, that one tumbled to record low of 84.5 against the US dollar. Now the underwhelming trend of the Indian equity market, consistent FIs outflows as well as a stronger dollar on the back of Trump trade are some of the key factors which are driving this particular decline. So we saw a record low on rupee coming in yesterday. In fact, we did gather up expert reaction also. We did speak to Santosh Shah, who's the head of research and partner with Manhattan Ventures. He spoke to us about the room for further downside for the rupee and the impact of currency depreciation on imports. Let's listen in.
Till we see some direction, get visibility as to where exactly how Trump wants to address the inflation issue. Is he going to spike it up more by putting the tariffs across the board, or is he going to be prudent about it? And so that's going to weigh on the bond yields, and that's going to weigh on the attractiveness of the U.S. investments vis-a-vis other currencies. So things like that. But generally, the direction is going to be up. I mean, down for rupee and up for dollar. But there is definitely some downward pressure on all those industries who are dependent on imports or who are importing a lot of stuff. So that's a natural economic equation right there. So if the rupee goes down, yes, it'll cost more to import a lot of stuff. So those industries will feel the pressure. The good thing going for India is that it's a consumption economy. At some point, things will turn around as long as they keep the economy steady, keep rates steady, and continue, maybe do more cuts if needed, and keep the economy really going. It should reverse, and things will come back to normal.
All right, then that was the verdict coming in from the expert as well, that the dollar is going to be scaling higher highs. But moving on, then let's get you the list of events that you should then be watching out for. And in terms of back home, you do have HSBC manufacturing and services PMI data as well as forex reserves data as well. Those are the data sets that we're keeping an eye on. And from the US, then University of Michigan consumer sentiment is something that we're looking out for, along with S&P Global manufacturing and services PMI data as well. And from the UK, you do have retail sales as well as S&P Global manufacturing and services PMI data from UK as well. So that is also something that we're watching out for. From the Eurozone, then there's HCOB manufacturing and services PMI data. So lots to watch out for, at least when it comes to data. But then back home, of course, in the primary market, you do have subscription closing for NTPC Green. So that's really the one to watch out for. And in terms of other events, then this has really been the week of commentary, especially when it comes to the Federal Reserve. But you do also have the ECB President Christine Lagarde, who will be speaking as well. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that speech as well, Priyanka.
All right, now let's get you some more global stories. And now with this, let's kickstart our coverage from the world of business, talking about this morning with the global headlines. Number of Americans filing new applications for unemployment benefits fell to a 7-month low last week. Now, this suggests that job growth likely rebounded in November after abruptly slowing last month amid hurricanes as well as strikes. It is, however, taking longer for laid-off workers to find new jobs, which poses an upside risk to the unemployment rate. Now, weekly jobless claims have dropped by 6,000 to 213,000 mark now. Remember, labor market slack keeps the door open to a third interest rate cut from the Fed, despite a recent lack of progress lowering inflation to its 2% of target.
Alright, then moving on, shifting focus away from the US to Japan, then where the headline inflation rate slipped to 2.3% in October, the lowest since January, and down from the 2.5% then seen in September. Meanwhile, core inflation also came in at 2.3%. That too is down from the 2.4% level in September, mind you. And remember that just last week, the Bank of Japan Governor Kazuo Ueda also said that the economy is heading towards sustained wage-driven inflation, also warned against keeping borrowing costs too low. So that is also some key commentary that we should recap.
Now, Alphabet shares fell 4% after the Department of Justice (DOJ) called for Google to divest its Chrome browser as a remedy to its antitrust case. Now, according to the DOJ filing, proposed breakup would permanently stop Google's control of this critical search access point and allow rival search engines the ability to access the browser that for many users is a gateway to the internet. Now, DOJ said in the filing that forcing the company to get rid of Chrome would create a more equal playing field for search competitors.
Rather than moving on, the International Criminal Court has now issued an arrest warrant for Israel's PM Netanyahu, ex-defense minister Gallant and Hamas military commander. They've been accused of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity amid the ongoing war in the region. The warrant adds that the three men bore the quote-unquote criminal responsibility. Israel, for its part, has rejected these charges, calling them absurd. But remember that this will only be in effect in the 124 member states, which exclude Israel and its close ally, the US.
Okay, in the meanwhile, tensions between Russia and Ukraine have escalated further. Russia launched intercontinental ballistic missile on Kyiv for the first time since the war began. Now, the President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia attacked with a new Russian rocket, but it had the characteristic of a ICBM. Meanwhile, US Defense Secretary says the Biden administration will allow Ukraine to use American-supplied anti-personnel landmines to help slow Russia's battlefield progress in the war. According to reports, a US official disputes Kyiv's claim that Russia launched an intercontinental ballistic missile at Ukraine. Now, this came as the US and other Western embassies in Kyiv stayed closed after a threat of a major Russian aerial attack on the Ukrainian capital.
Котре показав, який він насправді, як він зневажає і гідність, і свободу, і взагалі життя людей. І як він боїться настільки, що застосовує вже нові ракети. І шукає по світу, де б ще знайти зброю. То в Ірані, то в Північній Кореї. Сьогодні була нова російська ракета. Всі характеристики – швидкість, висота міжконтинентальної балістичної. Зараз тривають експертизи. Очевидно, що Путін використовує Україну як полігон. Очевидно, що Путін боїться, коли поруч з ним просто є нормальне життя, коли люди просто мають гідність, коли країна просто хоче бути і має право бути незалежною.
Alright, then that's the word coming in from the Ukrainian president. Let's get you some more news and updates then. Angela Merkel, who was Germany's chancellor for 16 years until 2021, published her frank memoir speaking about her interactions with the US President-elect Donald Trump. In her memoir, then, she writes that she had the impression that politicians with autocratic and dictatorial traits captivated Trump. About the Russian president, she writes that he also seemed to her as someone who was always on his guard to avoid being treated badly. In fact, my colleague Sumita Karir is standing by with some more details on this. Sumita, tell us a little more about this memoir then.
Is Donald Trump fascinated by autocratic leaders? Well, German Chancellor Angela Merkel thinks so. She's described US President-elect Donald Trump's apparent fascination with autocratic leaders, and that too particularly with Russian President Vladimir Putin. She's mentioned all of that in her memoir titled Freedom. In fact, she's also made some supporting claims, and she says, and I quote, "He was clearly very fascinated by the Russian president in the years that followed. I had the impression that he was captivated by politicians with autocratic and dictatorial tendencies." In fact, Merkel also has recalled her first meeting with Donald Trump that happened in March 2017, and that is shortly after he was elected to the White House. In fact, Merkel recalls that conversation and says that Trump asked her about her East German background and her relationship with Putin, which she called an apparent fascination with the Russian president. In fact, Merkel also recalls in one of the passages the kind of discomfort that she felt when she met with Donald Trump face to face. She recounts how when she flew back to Germany, after that encounter, she had a very bad feeling after meeting Donald Trump. So here, Angela Merkel saying that Donald Trump is perhaps fascinated by autocratic leaders.
All right, thanks Sumita for making it simpler for our viewers. We stay for a short break here. When we come back, we get you the cues from the Asian market as well as we have other news on the show. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, as promised, let's get your check going on the Asian markets then. And firstly, when you take a look at Japan's Nikkei, that's the one to watch out for because you do have that one holding on to a shade of green. On your screens, uptick of just about 0.8% coming in. For that particular index, you do have investors in Asia really assessing the Japan's October consumer price index data. Now, the overall CPI did come in at 2.3% versus 2.5% in September. So that is something that we were looking at least for Nikkei. Let's also take a look at ASX 200. That is also the one that is also eking out gains as we speak. 1% uptick coming in for ASX 200. Hang Seng also holding on to that shade of green at this point. On your screens, 0.5% uptick for that one as well. Now, what's not doing that well, at least as of now, is the Shanghai as well as Kospi. On your screens, 0.1% downtick coming in. For the Shanghai, the cuts are a little deeper coming in for Kospi as well because 0.6% downtick is what you're looking at as far as Kospi is concerned. So it's really just Nikkei, ASX 200 as well as Hang Seng that are holding on to that shade of green, and Shanghai and Kospi that are not doing all that well. Kospi, the top laggard at this point, at least in the pack of the Asian markets as well. So that's largely the handover that we're looking at. But speaking of handovers, then back home, of course, we shut shop around the 23,349 mark, and currently what is being penciled in is a gap up open, and with that strong handover coming in from the Wall Street as well as Asia, it really does remain to be seen what really happens with us, Priyanka, as well.
All right, let's see how we pan out. Right now, we're giving a start of 89 points, but yesterday also similar situation happened, and what we saw was again a day of sell-off. What came in Indian markets. In Japanese October inflation is on the tap on Friday. That is today. Maybe that is making Nikkei a little nervous. But moving on, let's get you what we have for on the show ahead. At 9:20, we speak to S. Naren, ED and CIO for ICICI Prudential AMC, to talk about the relentless FI selling. Where are we headed towards? Then 9:40, we speak to Rahul Guha, who's the MD and CEO from Thyrocare Technologies. At 9:50, we get you the real estate trends when we speak to Prashant Thakur, who's the head of research and advisory for Anark Group. At 10:20, we speak to Garden Rich Shipbuilders. On the order pipeline, we would have CMD PR Hari on the show with us to talk about it. Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe on ET now. Now let's get you some more stories. Adani Group was in focus yesterday. Adani Group stocks came under severe pressure yesterday after the indictment by the US Department of Justice accused the group of bribing Indian government officials for energy supply contracts. Adani Green has withdrawn its proposed dollar bond issue of $600 million also. The group has clarified that they are compliant with all the laws and will take all legal recourse available, calling the bribery charges baseless. Ministry of Renewables Energy sources tell us that they have not received any documents from the US DOJ. Prakash Priyadarshi joins in with more details on this. Prakash?
Yes, we are learning from our sources in the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy that they can't comment on the media reports. In fact, they have not received any documents related to this matter. However, sources are saying that there is a robust system in place for contracts. In fact, the government agencies are following a very transparent mechanism, but they can't comment on this report at this point of time. Along with that, we also approached a SECI on this matter, and the SECI officials are saying that whatever information they have received from media reports, and they can't say anything about the authenticity of the order. In fact, they have not received any document about the charges. SECI officials are also saying that as per the media reports, there is no involvement of SECI officials. It seems that there is some involvement of government officials and the companies, but SECI is completely denying any involvement of its officials as per the media reports. But let's see how it pans out. But at this point of time, there is no official statement from the government on this matter.
All right, thanks Prakash for getting us that exclusive update. Then moving on, then let's also get to the word coming in from HP Ranina, who's a lawyer at the Supreme Court, who also brings his interpretation of the case on the table and its implications. Then let's go across and listen into what exactly he then had to say.
Obviously, it's a very serious matter because it involves criminal charges. And in criminal court, things take a different view and they take a very strict view. So it's all a question of fact. If Adani can prove that these charges are false or that they are not correct, if they can bring some evidence, that's a different matter. But having already been indicted, that seems to be a very difficult situation because this is a criminal charge and that's based on facts, not really much of law. It's a question of bribery. It's a question of what is the amount of bribery, whom it was paid. Once that is established, then the court will just pass the order.
Okay, so that's Mr. H.C. Renan's call on that, but let's get you more reactions on it. In fact, now the political row has erupted after US SEC indicted Gautam Adani for bribery charges. Leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi has also reiterated corruption charges against Adani and PM Modi also, leading to volley of attacks and counter-attacks. Let's listen in.
अदानी जी का अरेस्ट होना चाहिए, आज अरेस्ट होना चाहिए। प्रधानमंत्री जी 100% इस व्यक्ति की प्रोटेक्शन कर रहे हैं और इस व्यक्ति ने हिंदुस्तान के एसेट्स लिए हैं, भ्रष्टाचार करके एसेट्स लिए हैं। ये व्यक्ति बीजेपी को पूरा समर्थन करते हैं, पूरा सपोर्ट देते हैं। ये एस्टैब्लिश चीजें हैं, हम दोहराते जाएंगे। जेपीसी की मांग हमारी है, बट हम चाहते हैं कि अदानी जी को एकदम अरेस्ट किया जाए। और हम जानते हैं और हम देश को दिखाना चाहते हैं कि अदानी जी की अरेस्ट नहीं होगी, और इसलिए नहीं होगी क्योंकि हिंदुस्तान के प्रधानमंत्री अदानी जी के पीछे खड़े हुए हैं और उनके प्रोटेक्टर हैं।
राहुल जी कह रहे थे इंडिया हाईजैक हो गया है, गलत, टेंस गलत है। पास्ट टेंस में होना चाहिए था, फ्यूचर टेंस और प्रेजेंट टेंस में नहीं। इंडिया हाईजैक हो गया था। गांधी परिवार, ये नकली गांधी परिवार उसके हाईजैकर थे। कमांडो ने मुक्त कराया है हाईजैकिंग से। अब भारत का जो इकोनॉमिक जहाज है वह रनवे पे 2014 से रफ्तार से दौड़ करके अब 35,000 की फुट की ऊंचाई पर उड़ान भर रहा है, तीसरे नंबर की इकोनॉमिक शक्ति बनने जा रहा है। तो राहुल गांधी, इंडिया इज नॉट हाईजैक्ड, इंडिया वाज हाईजैक्ड। टुडे इंडिया इज सोरिंग हाई एज फार एज इकोनॉमी इज कंसर्न्ड।
All right, then there you go. That was Rahul Gandhi as well as Sambit Patra sharpening their knives and taking jibes at each other with those scathing attacks. Moving on, then pain continues to mount for the Adani Group after Kenyan President William Ruto ordered the cancellation of a procurement process that had been expected to award control of the country's main airport to the group after its founder was indicted in the United States. Under the proposed deal worth nearly $2 billion, the Adani Group was to add a second runway at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport and also upgrade the passenger terminal in exchange for a 30-year lease. Remember, the deals had been sharply criticized over lack of transparency as well as value for money. So that's the latest update as far as that particular deal is concerned.
All right, in the meantime, the proposed acquisition of erstwhile Anil Ambani-controlled Reliance Capital by IndusInd International linked to the billionaire Hinduja family has crossed the last mile. DPIIT, which facilitates FDI approvals in India for investors, has cleared the planned takeover by IndusInd. This closes all regulatory clearances needed for the buyout to conclude. Anurag Joshi joins it with more details on this.
The Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade has approved the proposed acquisition of shadow lender Reliance Capital by Hinduja family linked IndusInd International. The transaction has crossed the last mile and received all the regulatory clearances, including that of DPIIT. DPIIT is the nodal agency that helps investors with the FDI process in India. Last year, Reliance Capital's creditors had cleared the acquisition of the lender by IndusInd International for about 10,000 crore rupees. The insolvency process was initiated on the company by the Reserve Bank of India in December 2021, and IndusInd International had emerged last year as the successful resolution applicant for the proposed acquisition. IndusInd resolution plan was approved by a 99.6% majority vote of the creditors panel in 2023. Torrent Investments was IndusInd's rival in the attempt to acquire Reliance Capital. IndusInd has already paid about rupees 3,000 crore rupees to Reliance Capital creditors and has to pay the remaining 6,500 crore rupees for the transaction.
All right, thanks Anurag for that exclusive update coming in. Time for a very quick breather on the show. When we come back, we'll continue taking a look at some more news and updates, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, as promised, let's get you some more news and updates. In fact, Ansh is standing by with the futures and options roundup then. Ansh?
Right, so FII not just continue to be negative in cash market, but even in index future, we are seeing their bearish nature. Because in the previous session, they have added some long by around 94 contract, but on short side, we are seeing that they have added around 9,600 short contract, due to which the total long position is around 25% currently. But they have been hovering around this 20% from start of November, so we are seeing some consolidation from their end. Now, if we talk about Nifty, then Nifty continues to be bearish. It touched 5-month low level. But if we talk about index future, then we are seeing long unwinding happening because open interest has gone down by around 2%, which is a negative sign. Also on option front, we are seeing most active call writing happening at that 23,400 strike, indicating resistance around this level, whereas on downside we are seeing some put unwinding happening at 23,300 mark. Now if we talk about Nifty Bank, then this is interesting because in the previous session Nifty Bank snapped 3-session gaining streak, but it touched that 200 DMA and gave a good recovery from that level. Also, if you can see the chart, then this year Nifty Bank, whenever it has touched this 200 DMA, it has hovered around that for few sessions, but after that it has given a very good move on upside, so we can have some positive hopes, especially in Nifty Bank index. If we talk about index future, then we are seeing some long unwinding happening. Open interest has gone down by 5%. Most important data is the option thing here, because most active call writing is happening at 51,000 psychological mark, indicating resistance around this level, but this resistance is very far from current level, so we can have some good up move in the coming session. So keep an eye on these levels.
Okay, thanks for that roundup, Ansh. Let's see how it fares out. But then we've seen a big quantum of selling by FIs yesterday also. Moving on, we have Jinay standing by with the list of stocks that could be buzzing in trade today on the back of news flow. Jinay, morning, tell us.
Well, definitely. Let's start off with Tata Power. It will be in focus as the company signed an MOU with an Asian Development Bank. This is for financing of about $4.25 billion US dollars for a project of clean energy power transmission project. Also, Hyundai Motors will be in focus as the company will be setting up 2 renewable energy plants in Tamil Nadu, affirming its commitment towards the sustainability by targeting RE100 benchmark by 2025. Also, BHEL will be in focus. BHEL will be in focus as ET report that it will be commissioning a 9 gigawatt thermal power plant by this fiscal end year. And lastly, Wipro Limited will be in focus as the company has announced that the record date for the bonus issue will be 3rd of December 2024.
Well, absolutely, Jinay. So when you take a look at the list of stocks to watch out for, you do also have SBI making it to that list on account of Jefferies that has come out with a note on the key takeaways of the SBI management meet, then maintaining a buy stance on the stock as well. Tell us a little more about the key highlights then.
Well, definitely SBI did conduct its management tweet. We have a note by Jefferies of maintaining buy, and the target price is 1,030 rupees. Now, the key takeaways from the meet was the company's focus on deposit growth as well as the asset quality, which remains robust. If you look at more key takeaways, the company is focusing on improving the deposit growth. Even the LDR has a margin improvement space, is what Jefferies believes. Also, the asset quality is holding up, and the recoveries will also aid in second half, is what Jefferies Jefferies believes. Along with it, the MCLR will also aid the further margin growth. Is what something to watch out for. Now, SBI also believes that there will be a gradual rate cut, especially likely in the Q4 of FY25. However, the inflation data is something to watch out factor for. Now, the bank is not planning on raising any capital, as well as planning to monetize or list their stake in any subsidiaries. The management has retained its guidance of 14 to 16% growth in credit and 10 to 11% growth in the deposit growth for coming next 3 years. As well as Jefferies is now expecting a 13% CAGR in terms of loans growth over FY24 to 27, with an ROE of 16% by FY26 to 27, and SBI remains the top pick in the whole banking sector.
All right, thanks very much, Junaid, for all that quick update on the SBI management meet and Jefferies' target on SBI. Moving on, we have Sharad now joining us to talk about the MFI's semi-annual recategorization, which could soon see the likes of Hyundai, Bajaj Housing and even Swiggy becoming the large caps, while Waaree Energies, Premier Energy could be the new mid-cap entrants. This is as per the GM Financial's estimates. Sharad will tell us more on the expectation. Sharad?
Well, yes, we are focusing AMFI's categorization of stocks in large cap, mid cap and small cap funds, and these changes are expected to be announced in the first week of January next year. Now, interestingly, these changes would be effective from February to July 2025, and JM Financial has compiled a certain list of stocks which may be possible entrants in the large cap, mid cap categories, and what changes can happen. Especially new entrants for large cap, we are having Hyundai, Bajaj Housing Finance and Swiggy, recently listed companies, to make it to the list. While in the mid cap segment, the new entrants are expected to be Waaree, Premier Energy, Ola Electric as well as First Cry. Now let's look at the shares which can move from the mid cap category to the large cap definition. They include CG Power, RVNL, Industar, ICICI Pru Life, Cummins India and Polycab, to name a few. Interestingly, from small cap to mid cap, there are a couple of stocks such as 361 WAM, ABFRL and Imami also making it to the list. Now, interestingly, from large cap to mid cap, there are certain stocks which have come in the list. They include BHEL, Canara Bank, Apollo Hospitals, IDBI, NHPC and even Union Bank of India. And lastly, I would like to point out the stocks which are moving from the mid cap category, which may move to the small cap segment. And this is coming in like stocks such as Go Digit, Apollo Tyres, Bandhan Bank, Hind Copper, Medanta and Poonawalla FinCorp. Now do remember, these numbers are expected to change, the market cap numbers are expected to change, so the definitions of these stocks moving in various categories can also change, but this is a tentative list as per JM Financial.
Well, absolutely, Sharad. The tentative list is what we have there. But while you're with us, FIIs have also been on a selling spree in the country. And the first half of November was no different, really, with foreign investors pulling out more than $2.7 billion across sectors. However, the software and services as well as capital goods space, that saw some decent buying as well. Tell us a little more about the highlights of this then.
Well, yes, we have seen the FI flows coming in for November 1st to November 15th, and for the first fortnight of November, here are the numbers. The FI outflows has been there to the tune of almost $2.7 billion, and if you look at the last 3 fortnights, there has been an outflow of $14 billion. Also, interestingly, only 6 sectors saw inflows coming in the first fortnight of November. And health sector has actually seen outflows in just once in the last 11 fortnights. So let's look at the headline numbers, especially in the key outflows part. Energy segment, the most outflows coming in at roughly $855 million, followed by financial services at $840 million. Also making it to the list are automobile, FMCG, telecom, where between 350 to almost $550 billion of outflows are reported. Now let's look at the inflows. Of course, the numbers are not very much, but software and services segment, that has seen the highest inflow coming in at roughly $366 million, with minor inflows coming in between capital goods, healthcare, real estate, commercial, ranging between $25 to $108 million. Now let's look at how the weightage is coming in, the FI positioning in the sectors. Overall, the underweights is coming in the software, energy and the material segment. However, the overweight, if you look at it, that is financial services, that's roughly 2.7%, which has corrected minorly over the last numbers which we have seen in the end of October. But overall, FI flows, especially in the outflow segment, have been dominant across all the segments.
Of course, across all the segments, the FI's outflows are dominant. Thanks very much, Sharad. The energy and financial seeing the maximum of the heat here. Well, on this, it's a wrap on this edition of Market Cafe. Thank you so much for watching, but don't go anywhere. We have a Power Pack action lineup going ahead.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.